Hello and welcome. We are happy to be here. Thank you very much, Diana and Jose, for joining us. And we are here from Global AI Community to present you something from AI Upskilling Framework Series. And hi Diana, hi Jose, how are you?
Hi, thanks for having me. Very good.
You are
Yes,
great?
same here. Yes, same here. Very good.
That's nice. Okay.
It's not that hot today, so it's a good day.
That's great. Thank you very much. So let's start on this one. That will be a series of 5 different sessions. And today we are talking about understanding somehow. So for all professionals, including leaders, managers, includes responsible AI, GenAI, whatever you are going to understand on the basic perspective, we are talking about this one today. And the next few sessions for the next few weeks, we will talk more about, of course, applying, building, training, maintaining models, and deeply specialization. So stay with us, and we are happy to go for the first one, for the first lesson, and to see how people are really using GenAI in 2025. We compare something that Harvard Business Review have done, and they compared top 10 GenAI use cases here. And you see that compared to the last year, somehow the generating ideas is moving back. And what I like to see, of course, is we are getting productive on GenAI services. So, for example, as a developer, you want to have some generating code for pro developers from 47 to 5, and also improving codes. So from 19 to 8. And of course, we have some fun and nonsense, but I think we are doing great to going on a GenAI in production. Of course, also from perhaps enhanced learning from 8 to 4. But first of all, let us define GenAI. And I think, Jose, you will do this for us.
Sure, gladly. So there's always a beginning, isn't there? Starting at the outside, AI is simply machines. From the beginning was simply the idea of humans making machines that mimic human thinking, learning, planning, problem solving. The idea comes back to philosophers in 1940 and became a formal field in 1956, thing at Dartmouth. Then we go one step further in machine learning that is basically teaching computers to spot patterns and make predictions from data. That happened in 1980, before we had what we call the AI winter, which is a period of time where nothing happens, nothing evolves, probably thanks to, or the problem was mostly the compute power was not up to, but basically with machine learning, expert systems can already diagnose medical cases and trading stocks with some degree of accuracy. Let's see, 40 to 60 or 70 or maybe more percent. Deeper still, we go to the next phase, deep learning, which stacks many neural network layers inspired by how our brain works. In 1907, Deep Blue beat Kasparov at chess. It's one of the first symbolic AI triumphs over human knowledge and abilities. But through deep neural network, breakthrough is envisioned, and speech arrived in 2010. At the core is Gen AI, which doesn't look at the data. It to analyze it, it creates next. Alex, yeah, exactly. Um, but this took a bit of a story, so it kind of overlaps. So 2014, it started with GANs, generative adversarial networks, which were invented for realistic image synthesis. Casually, a bit later, where that's still on the deep learning part, DeepMind's AlphaGo defeated Lee Sedol in Go, which if you know about the games we humans play, this is the most complex game in Earth. That is not computer, of course. Then we go further. 2017, Transformer architecture laid the foundation for modern large language models. And this led to GPT-3 being released in 2020 with 175 billion parameters, I think. And 2021, DALL-E appears, and 2022, ChatGPT rockets to 100 million users in, I think it was 1 or 2 months. So basically, that means conversational AI is here to stay. But there is one more thing, agentic AI. But yeah, next. Before that, this is a landscape of a page I follow very tightly. I really like this person. It's named, I think, Alan. And he is like posting a lot of the progress of AI, Gen AI, and LLMs lately, and it shows how do we fare at the moment with LLMs uh, in a very test way. I don't want to expand too much time on this, but PhD domain expert, we have Cloud 3, Opus 3.5 Sonnet. He has released some analysis on Grok 4 if anybody is curious, but this chart is not updated. This is from February. I think he needs to do, once the analyses are conclusive, a new one in for July. So basically, this shows that, well, they can't really do a lot of things in theory and according to dashboards. Reality proves in a different way, but yeah, time will tell. So if we go to the next one, we go to Agentic AI, which is, to me, my favorite topic. I've been with that for a long, long time. Okay, Agentic AI for me is a way to get AI to help me. It's kind of my dream to get some agents that can help me streamline my work and transform these. On the previous slide, sorry, this pile of to do that you can see. Mm, Alex,
Yes.
can you go to the previous slide?
Sorry.
No worries. Thank you. So you can see a lot of to do, and the idea is to get different agents that can help you streamline, like intelligent assistants in helping you to get your work done faster and in a more streamlined way, or even better, right? So this is what we can do today, and I'm very happy that you can do that with either these AI agents or large language models that can use tools together with applications that you develop. And this is a reality as of today, at least for me, if you put the effort for learning into prompting and learning into coding your own applications. So we can go to the next one. But one thing I want to highlight is how does it differ from our usual usage of tools like ChatGPT, Claude, or Copilot or Microsoft AI, right? So one is the usual workflow where you ask something, you do a prompt, you let the model do the work, and you get a result. Okay. Then if you don't like it, you want to align it a bit, and you have to start again and request. Of course, the chat window has the memory, but yeah, it's not optimal because you have to intervene every way. And then we have agentic, where you can have more than one agent. You can have, for example, a creator and a critic. So the critic can do your work and align the creator, so you don't have to. So you can ask initially, hey, write me a blog post about this event, and the critic will say, oh, this post needs more information, or propose some areas for revision, and criticize the style and provide improvements, and iterate. And the creator fixes that, improves it, and then the critic revises it again. Just like, for example, we write code or we write a book. We have a copywriter that reviews that for you until the end. This cycle repeats 3-4 times or whatever times are needed. And at the end, the outcome is, wow, that's what I wanted. And this can be automatically done today. And it accelerates your work quite a lot. We can go to the next one. And a lot of people would say, oh, yeah, but maybe agents are not that good, right? But if we see the progression of the models we have here on GPT 3.5 and GPT 4 below on a benchmark, which is called human evil, which is the ability of models, large language models, to code some set of mm, challenges. So it's a benchmark, it's automated, you can execute it in wherever, in different platforms. And in zero shot means, okay, just do it once and give me the result. GPT 3.5 achieves, can we do next? 48%, which is not even 50%. It's less than throwing a coin. And GPT-4 achieves 67%. But if we use Agentic AI, which is multiple agents working and collaborating, GPT 3.5, the lower end model, beats the higher tier model, GPT 4, by 95%, which is super, super high. And GPT 4 reaches 97, which is just a bit more. So the difference when you apply Agentic AI and multi-agent strategies is really not that big. So it shows the power of Agentic AI. And this is not today. This is um, a test done by Andrew Ng, the founder of deeplearning.ai, done last year, about August last year. So today things have changed quite a bit.
Yeah, sure. Let's talk next about the apps and agents also that are transforming industry and business functions. What kind of industries do we have here? I think all of them. Do you agree? So, do you see some industries that are getting further and are going to hit more on AI agents, or in some industries are behind them, or are they still all equal?
Hmm. I would ask Diana on this because she has a higher point of view on all the industries as a go-to-market lead. Diana, what do you think?
Happy to chime in. So, I mean, in general, right, all industries are present in this space, right? However, we need to consider that different industries have different maturity levels when it comes to AI, right? If we now consider, for example, manufacturing, we might see a higher technical depth in terms of data coming from, history. We still see paperwork flying around the shop floor. We still see digitalization potential before we even start talking about AI, right? Whereas if we look, for example, in automotive, they already have been working on their data estate for the past years and decades, right? So they have a much higher maturity to add the AI layer on top of that. But regardless of that, we do see either productivity and efficiency gain use cases within the industries. And at the same time, we're seeing revenue growth use cases, right? And it's all about when we look at sales and marketing functions, for example, it's all about that customization. So putting really the customer at the center and creating that personalized experience for each and every one using this unified customer profile and adding AI on top of that.
Yeah. Regarding the adding AI on top of that is the great idea to do this if you are already somehow prepared for this. So you have your data there, you have your structures, you have your processes, and then you are adding AI to this one. What I was seeing is that the people exactly, if you are not taking some industries, but I think across of the industries, they are taking AI and then they're trying to figure out what is inside, how can they use it. And we talked a little bit earlier about this, Diana, already. So they are stacking, a lot of them are stacking in POC because they are not thinking about the whole processes on how to insert the AI. So just create this application, just create LLM, trying something. Oh, it doesn't work. Okay, that's it. So that's not even how you want to work on this one. So we will talk a little bit later in this session about how to run your proof of concept, how to do this one. But this also here, the shift, what we see also from GenAI to Agentic AI. So you have to design it, and on the left one, I think Jose was talking about this one already. We generate something. We're doing summaries, we're doing images, audios, and so on. So that is something. What I was seeing is we're talking about it's somehow old. That's completely new stuff. That's completely new technology. That's not nothing there for 10 years somehow. But of course, we have started last decade or perhaps for years thinking about what can be done by AI or machine learning and so on. But somehow, if we are now on general available on generation, I think every one of us are using this one already. Are you agree?
I agree completely. I mean, basically, Gen AI started really to the masses about 2021, 2022 with ChatGPT. That's where everybody realized this exists. And Agentic AI started basically in 2023, not that far away,
Yes,
right? I mean,
1, 2 years
uh,
ago. Yes. Hmm.
basically, talking about Microsoft, AutoGen was announced, not published, in I think around May, March 2023.
Hmm.
And semantic kernel, which you know I love, was is a technology for creating Gen AI and agentic applications. Was released as open source on the first version about also around March
Hmm.
2023.
Yeah,
So
but
not that far away.
we have to define autogen. You have say this one. What's that?
It's an experimental framework. At the
Hmm.
moment, experimental. So I don't know
Hmm.
what if this will change because a lot of things are changing in Microsoft, right, Diana? With the Core AI initiative, which, as far as I know, has been really incredibly fast. But AutoGen is experimental. It's called SOTE, state of the art framework
Hmm.
for exploring and improving and applying everything in regards papers regarding everything on agents is applied first and tested first on what is called AutoGen, which
Okay.
is a framework for getting agents to collaborate together.
Okay.
It's not just one agent doing one thing, it's
Hmm.
many agents together working in different workflows that you can set. Now,
Hmm.
since 2 or 3 months, they can even decide who goes next. So it's kind of a always evolving framework.
Okay, so it was from Microsoft Research. It was like something that they mentioned there. So it's exactly if we call something by the name, we should define somehow. So if we are going to retrieval and actions, we are moving to agentic AI. How can
Yes.
we leave this kind of generation and move to actions? What does that mean?
Well, you need some connection, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some tools that you can provide
Mm-hmm.
the agent or the LLM, right? At the end, is always an LLM at the end, and an agent is just an
Sure.
orchestration around an LLM that gives it the ability to react to an impulse. And but I'm going ahead because the next slide is the definition. So, but an action is a way that we provide to do things to an agent.
Mm-hmm.
That as
So
simple as that.
that's great. That's great. So on GenAI, we are going to generate something like a summarization images, and then we are going to retrieve data in the next step, and then we want to something
Mhm.
take an action. So somehow, as you said,
Yeah.
if we defined an agent, that is a slide from Microsoft Build that is free available for us, and I like the idea to simple showing what is an agent for us. So Jose, what do you think?
Okay, I would go to the basics, right? To me, an
Sure.
agent is simply a brain, an
Mm-hmm.
LLM, which you can swap for whatever you can. I think in Azure Foundry we have over 1,000, I think 1,100 or
A
200
lot.
already.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot. So it's hard. Then you provided some goal, which can be a personality, right?
Mm-hmm.
It can have a personality. You provided tools, which is the means for an agent to do actions, right? Um, and it has as well memory,
Mm-hmm.
or long term, short term. It depends on where this agent is coded into. It can be that you access through a web chat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you access through an application which is implemented, or you access through, for example, another orchestrator, which is Copilot Studio
Mm-hmm.
as an
Mm-hmm.
agent. And then an agent can be interactive or autonomous. It can do work on its own,
Mm-hmm.
or based on a stimulus of a person or an application,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the input can be system, user, an agent. Another agent can trigger another agent, and
Mm-hmm.
then it generates an output, right? Which is a tool result, agent messages. Sometimes the agent can have different loops on it before delivering a proper
Mm-hmm.
response because some
Mm-hmm.
things take time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically
That's
the
great.
agent.
So if you are going to understand why do I need an input? So can be something like a query, like event, whatever. I also understand what is an output. What we then, if we do not have this one on tools calling, we will not talking about the agent somehow here anymore. Uh, you said retrieval actions, okay, but why do I need the memory? Why is this so important for the agent
Mhm.
to have memory here?
Okay. Think that you are having an interaction, and
Hmm.
if
So me too. We're talking the whole time during the session.
yeah.
Yes.
So if you lose context of the conversation, or I lose context, you will get angry. Hey, Jose, I just told you that. Come on, and you don't want to
No,
repeat that
no.
over and
I
over,
wouldn't be
right?
angry. I wouldn't be angry. I would just say don't have an idea why. What do you talking about? What are you talking about? So
Exactly.
perhaps if you say to myself, we will do the next slide, Diana will move on, and so on, then I can store this one in my memory, perhaps.
Mhm.
But then, if you tell to myself, please go to the next slide, and I do not have in my memory what is going on next, I have no idea what you're talking about. The
Exactly.
person, the human, they can figure out because we can go three actions back and realize there's a back reference on your side. You mentioned something earlier, and then you get the reference there for the AI agent or for a system for computer that can understand only zero and ones. If there's no memory there, you have no idea for the next sentence what the person is talking about from the
Mhm.
last part.
Yep.
So I think to run an action, because we will do this something like an interactive, like I say to you only 20% of information, and then I would say another 20%. If you don't have a memory, then you have lost the first 20 somehow. But my question was also, how can you use this one? Because the agent, they want to get something. So you store this memory and then throw it away, or how would this agent be implemented? What do you think?
It depends, right?
Hmm.
So if it's a agent that you're talking through a chat interface, we are talking mostly on the chat history,
Hmm.
right? And maybe you don't want this agent to get any knowledge about other conversations
Hmm.
with you, right? So that then makes sense, and that's also provided by the chat interface. Or maybe you want this to have long-term, short-term memory because it's, for example, quoting one of the use cases before, a personal assistant, or who you are, what do you do, what's your agenda. You would like it to have a long-term memory, short-term memory, or maybe even intermediate memory, and then you
Yes.
need components like Mem0, which is
Hmm.
a framework for providing that.
Hmm.
One of the best. Have been play a bit only with it, and I think it's really, really impressive. So if you build such kind of agent, then
Hmm.
this is a way to use a ready, provided, and verified component into that, like a Lego block.
That's a great explanation. I think we are done on this slide, and then we are already synchronized that we are talking right now about success requires for the AI strategy, and we are starting here on a business use case.
One thing that connects both is coming to the first point that you mentioned on the previous, not previous
Yes.
slide. It's about actions. It's one, to my opinion, what's stopping sometimes the use case in a POC, which is trust,
Hmm.
right? When you want, for example, oh, I want you to decide the investment strategy, or I want you to research which is the best product, and then, well, now let's get to buy it.
Hmm.
And then the agent asks you, hey, give me your credit card. I say, oh, okay, let me give me 5 minutes, right?
Hmm. Sure.
And I think that's the important point, because when it starts acting, you need human oversight. You need to put that together, and basically it's something that nobody has thought, right? So one way of doing this, I will not tie that to the technology, but this is being defined as we speak. So I think it was a few days ago that they added security or authorization into what is called MCP, which is a standard now, which
Hmm.
is a way to provide a tool to any agent in a standard way in a protocol defined by Entropic that has an agreement with Microsoft, and both are working towards defining this standard. So
Let's
this is
discuss this one
yeah
a little bit later, the technical
yeah
capabilities, because we have to
yes.
first talk about the business use cases, what Diana wants us to show right now.
Woohoo.
Yeah, so happy to jump in here. And I mean, so far, just to recap a bit, we've heard a bit about how we got to where we are today, right? In terms of the state of the AI, right? So I mean, it's nothing new. It's been around for years. It's just been developing over time, right? And now, actually, for the first time in the history of technology AI, we have the opportunity to rethink how we approach the topic, right? Because in the beginning, you needed to have a certain technical skill to get started into this area. You needed a team of data scientists, you needed a lot of data, you needed to train your own models, and so on. So you would usually start from an IT perspective, right? However, now with GenAI coming into place, the entry barrier is much lower, especially for business, right? So, I mean, everyone can just download the Copilot app or the ChatGPT app and just get going. You don't need to have a technical background. That's why we had to redefine what it means to be successful in the space of AI, right? And this is where I want to bring in this perspective of a holistic approach. So we're not talking just about the technology anymore, but we are looking at it in a big picture perspective. And it always, this is one of the most important lessons at the moment, everything starts with the business. So it's not like you develop a shiny new AI platform and then you chase down business to use it, but it's the other way around. You sit down with business, you map out use cases that really bring value, and then you validate that from a technical perspective. Because at the moment, technically, you can basically do everything, right? I mean, the range of possibilities increased exponentially. However, you still need that one good business problem to prove that that the technology works. That would be the first part. Then we will go in a bit into the operating model. So how to make sure that your AI product is really developing to be a product and not just an AI project. So how do you operationalize it over time? Then we will touch on the technical capabilities, because now I would say that it's a matter of what technology do you want to go for, or what technology stack do you want to go for. It's never, the build versus buy conversation. It's in most cases it's build and buy for different scenarios. And then the fourth pillar, which I think it's often, overlooked, just because a lot of the people at the moment focus on increasing productivity with AI. But what is really needed long term is a strong culture and strategy in this regard. And then I want to bring in some perspectives on how AI will change the world of business, but also change the world of leadership as we see it. Good. Then I would say, as Alex already said, let's move into the business perspective. So the first pillar of a successful AI strategy. And I brought this one slide because there's been a lot of studies going on of, we talk at the moment about agents and all this futuristic technology and how agents are able to work for us and work autonomously and so on. However, when you go out into the market, right, and that's part of my job, and you actually talk to customers, you realize that they're not there yet. So most people at the moment are still at least a few steps lower, so to say, than this North Star of agentic AI, because of different reasons, right? And this is how you can see on one slide basically where organizations get stuck, and we will dig a bit deeper into the reason behind that. So one of my customers said at some point, and I really like that everyone at the moment is stuck in this punctitis. So this like infinite loop of POCs, right? And I think that that actually holds true at the moment. So it's really hard to get out of that, right? And that is, if we look on the next slide, Alex, we will see the reasons why, right? So at the moment, status quo is that all the industries that you've seen previously have this technology push. And what I mean by that is everyone wants to be one way or the other leader in their domain by leveraging AI, right? So everyone wants to get on this innovation train, so to say. However, because there is such a strong pressure from society, from industry to be leader in AI, a lot of people and businesses struggle to actually take the time and to identify and prioritize what use cases and what business challenges are really, really important to them. So where AI can have the biggest impact in the organization. Then even if they manage to do that, then it's always about, okay, let's do a POC for 1 or 2 weeks, see how it works, and then we will think forward, right? So it's all about focusing on one simple POC instead of, as Alex mentioned in the beginning, looking at the end-to-end business process. So what is it that I really want to achieve with AI? And not just how do I solve a problem that I've been having for 2 weeks. Then the next thing is organizations, especially the larger they are, the more siloed, right? This is just because it's a historical challenge that organizations face, right? The bigger you get, the more teams you form, and also the more siloed these teams are. And this holds true in AI as well. We see a lot of redundancies at the moment. I think we hit peak redundancy last year with REG, when basically every single department in an organization wanted to have their own chat with the data chatbot, right? And instead of saying, hey, how can we make one chatbot that applies to the whole organization, that then different lines of business can customize with their own data for their own needs? So having siloed teams is a problem that we need to tackle when we talk about the operational model. Then the next point that I want to address here is the point-in-time ROI. So whenever I talk, especially with CFOs and financial leaders, I feel that sometimes people are very focused on what can we get out of AI today, instead of really focusing on a long-term AI strategy that will benefit the entire organization over time. Instead, this instant gratification monster is a thing that we need to fight on a daily basis. Then lack of synergies goes in with silo teams, right? So this is when we technologically talk about the AI platform that serves as the foundational layer for everything else, or for every other use case that gets onboarded in order to create synergies in terms of technology and collaboration. And then governance. So governance is also an important aspect here, because you will see that if you're in an organization and you implement 1 or 2 use cases and it works, then 1 day later you will have about at least 50 other requests for other use cases that you will not know how to onboard, and especially how to govern over time, just because of the scale of it that increased overnight. So governance in terms of what does the AI is able to do, what kind of data are we able to access, who is able to access that type of data. This is something that's important to clarify in the beginning. And this is why basically today we want to go into as I mentioned, holistic AI strategy. We want to start at the top, and the top is business and our customers, right? So, and then we want to deliver this value-driven prioritization of use cases and to enable these synergies. As I mentioned, this happens on different layers, be it technical layer, be it in an organizational and team setup layer, be it also in terms of how you govern. It needs to create synergies. Otherwise, your AI strategy will not scale and will not be sustainably maintainable over time. Then maybe one more important aspect here in terms of the business. So we need to empower the business to achieve more, right? And achieving more means not doing an AI project over 3 or 6 months, but really creating a sustainable and long-living AI product, right? That can develop over time. And this goes into the operationalization at scale. And then when we talk about the AI platform, and I think Alex will touch on this later, we talk about automation. As I mentioned, it's the easiest way to scale and to be dynamic. We talk about AI-driven orchestration, right? So AI is not just a productivity tool, but it can also be a technically enhanceable tool. And we talk about, at the foundation of everything we do, having security. And I think that covers basically how we should start thinking about an AI strategy and where should we start from, right? And I think now maybe, Alex, if we go one step further, we will reach the operational model that, I mean, I've touched on this a few times already, or I mentioned this. But we would really want to, as a next step, go a bit deeper into what it means to actually be able in an organization to adopt these AI capabilities and to scale over time. And yes, so for the operational model, right, this is the second pillar of the strategy. I brought here a slide that basically shows from really practical experiences what we're seeing in the industries at the moment. And this, I mean, when you look at this doesn't apply just to AI, right? 5 years ago, we had the same discussion on how to organize data teams. It's in general a concept of how to structure and how to empower organizations to scale at the same time while having a framework around it. And I want to start in the middle. So the middle model that is presented here is called centralized teams. This is the typical, very, I would say, conservative and traditional organization structure that we know of, right? So you would have IT as a centralized governance, pushing and developing these AI use cases for the business. Now, one of the most common problem with this model, I think, Alex, if we, yeah. One of the most common problems with this model is that IT becomes the bottleneck, right? So IT will never be able to scale or to go as fast as the business wants to go. So this is a practice that it's kind of like dying out in the modern companies and modern industries at the moment. Now, the other extreme to this is the decentralized model. This means that basically every single line of business or team has some sort of AI capabilities and AI talent in their own teams. Now, that's why I'm calling it the other extreme, because on this side of the court, you would basically have a strong collaboration within that particular team, right? Because the IT is very close to the business, so they're fast and they're strong content-wise. However, you have a lot of redundancy, right? Because this is the example that I mentioned. Last year, every single line of business wanted their own chatbot. It's not the way to go. So what we're commonly seeing, especially in mid to large organizations, is the hub and spoke model, right? So you would still have a centralized IT team and centralized team for digital services, so to say, on top of the infrastructure that would tackle, I don't know, I would say central use cases such as Ask HR chatbot or a finance co-pilot, or so use cases that can benefit the whole organization. And then on top of that, they would support, so they would be the enablers for the lines of business to create their own business-specific use cases. That's why it's called hub and spoke. So you have the hub as a central entity, and then the spoke domain, so to say, at the edge. And this is something that, I mean, it's proven to work, right? It requires a lot of investment. It requires a lot of thinking. Sometimes, of course, also reorganization of the current organizational hierarchies. That's why I'm saying AI strategy and in general operating model is not a hobby, it's a full-time job. right? And it's a consideration that needs to be met in the beginning of an AI strategy to make sure that it actually gets implemented and rolled out, because this would be a change that doesn't happen overnight. So these are some of the points that I wanted to touch on the operating model as a whole. And now every time I talk to customers about this, I always get the question, so this AI governance, right? It's such a fuzzy concept. What do you actually mean by it? And whenever I ask a room of 50 people what they think AI governance is, I usually get 70 answers. So, and then we try to, when we talked about having now this webinar and in general how we approach customers on the topic, we try to simplify this a bit. So, and that's why I like to compare AI to pizza, because I think it makes it relatable and easy to understand for everyone. And it's not even really about the product. I just gave an example here to really convey a message that AI and the technology stack behind AI at the moment is very diverse. So there's a huge range of solutions to choose from. And of course, taking as an example Microsoft, if we start on the left-hand side, right? So M365 Copilot is basically an out-of-the-box solution. So it's like going to the supermarket and buying a pizza that is either ready to eat, or you just need to put it in the oven to be able to enjoy it, right? So, and it's the same with M365 or Microsoft Copilots. You can just, buy a license, download an app, and then you're ready to go. Then you have on the right-hand side, you have what we call Azure AI Foundry, right? Which is the developer stack. So it's a bit more hands-on. It requires a lot more technical expertise, but at the same time, it allows you to build custom solutions. And in the middle, you have kind of like the middle way, right? So that's the Copilot Studio, in which you can buy and customize. Now, that's why I said AI is like pizza, because it doesn't matter if you buy your pizza in the supermarket, if you customize it, so add your own ingredients, or if you want to go fully Italian and build it from scratch. The way to define an AI governance is saying that regardless what you choose, it's making sure that the AI doesn't burn in the oven, right? And I think that this is one simple way to understand what we mean by governance, that it's really technologically independent. It's about how do you manage the people, the technology, the operating model, to make sure that you have this overarching view on what you're doing. Good, and I think with that, Alex, we're ready to move on to the third pillar, which is the technical AI capabilities. And I'll just hand over to you.
Thank you very much. Sure. So that was a great experience somehow to see where do we start on the business use cases, what is about the operating model behind there, and then how do we do this one on best practice, however, and so on. Perhaps you have seen this kind of Azure landing zone architecture already. That's nothing new somehow for perhaps several people, but it is not even mentioned the CI. That will be on the next slide. But first of all, just to introduce this one to you, we have something what we call management subscription. So that's something we call identity. So we put their domain controllers, we identify the people that can log in and so on. Then we create one connectivity subscription. So how to connect to resources that we are putting on the landing zone, in the landing zone subscriptions. So the whole idea of providing applications, providing shared whatever resources like storage, their VMs, and so on. So you have to connect through one point of failure, Azure firewall, or perhaps express route or VPN tunneling, whatever. And then you have some people on the organization that are managing the networking connection. what we are always trying to figure out is the traditional way to moving from the local data center. You do not have some public IP addresses that I can use there as a end user somehow to create um, the public point there to go behind your firewall without going through this one. So the idea is that is one point of reaching the resources what we are putting on the landing zone in the subscriptions. So somehow we have already, of course, DevOps there and Sandbox to playing with. But if we're then going for the Azure Foundry chat reference, what Microsoft provided to us, you see that this is same connectivity subscriptions. So we are here on this one on the Azure firewall, and then over VNet peering. So we do peer some new VNets with resources beside or behind there. And what we are doing here is just to create a new one and peer this one also to this connectivity. That is what you have seen there. And this kind of subscriptions here, it's just our connection point onto our Azure resources. And what we do not do somehow in production is we do not provide LLM with a public point, public API, public accessibility, and so on. This is an end user who is reaching there for an application gateway that's somehow redundant. So load balancer as a firewall, also the checking, okay, there's one connection from an end user who is going to hit our app services, and these app services, they are of course managed. There you can reach them only through different connection, and do not reach the backend from this one directly. So what we are doing here, the setup the Azure Foundry with all the models, all the services, then you can just grab as an end user and use this kind of services from your app service instance that can be also provided in a new or different zone. So for the um, um, you can just going there and provide it in a new zones and a different zones because of whatever fault. And if you can go then if you do not need it, that can be also only in one zone, but you have also there for the fault on the storage side, on the Azure Key Vault, Azure AI Service, you reach this one from your management perspective, from your management networks, set up the backend, have this kind of front end for the end users, and also what I like also to mention here, do not forget the cost perspective. You have to somehow measure what kind of end users or what kind of LLMs will be there um, from the position of cost. If you have only one cost position, that is not a problem. You get your subscription, then it's done. But if you have to divide, then you have to figure out, okay, what kind of resources do you want to have there and get the things done. What you have in this kind of applications somehow is consistent element, like of course some security permissions, key vaults, and so on. They do not change every time. So you provide this one on your management groups, however, and then going through the subscription resources and so on. There are some variable elements. They're variable depending on your requirements. So you have something on requirements of from the app, from the prompting, from the data source, they are variable somehow. And of course, you have something like the models that are solution dependent, and the models are somehow changes the whole time. So if we are talking about perhaps with Jose, what do you think? How often do you need to change the models in your project? Have you done this already?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, there's always evolving models, and models are also getting deprecated very quickly sometimes. So this needs to be done. You can have that done automatically in Azure OpenAI Foundry, right? Sorry,
Yes.
in Azure Foundry. So
Mhm.
this, you can say, okay, always use the latest model of this type, and if it works, then it's usually working pretty well, that part. So that's
Okay,
done for me in this case.
sure. But of
Uh,
course, you need to build your applications that you do not have dependencies, so you can switch the model somehow, because that's only your API, that's your key, and then you can use also the newest one from Microsoft or newest model for every purpose, whatever you want to use. Yeah.
Absolutely, and always there's a better model that comes later, and it's cheaper, faster, stronger.
Yes, yes, yes. And if we are talking about one example, you see here, of course, we talk about, okay, how to set up this one. You have, of course, your LLM and cognitive services there. You have your solutions on UX, UI. You need to have some logging and monitoring reporting. So you need to know what exactly is going on, how much does it cost, and also if you're moving further, also set up the security and governance perspective was Diana was
Yes.
talking earlier somehow.
Yeah, that's very important. So one thing to highlight there, which I mean, it's part of Foundry, right? But there's these guardrail and controls which comes with these safety and security guardrails, which are really, really well implemented there. And there are not many providers that provide this. So you can even protect your applications from jailbreak by
Yes.
default. So
Yes.
it's already added that. Of course, it's not the bleeding edge, but it's very good.
Yeah, Microsoft is doing a great job to provide a lot of this kind of possibilities on not only on evaluation, not only on just logging and monitor your application. How is your LLM doing? How can you respond to the people, but also do respond in a secure way somehow. Not only set up this one and that's it. What I see a lot of in the POCs, that is the people want only to create an LM, they get the API keys and so on, and then they use it whatever they want to go. So and you see directly that this in the second part, a few days later, they come back and say, okay, and how can I log it, and how can I do it secure, and how can I provide the costed perspective, how can I see this one, that. So there's a lot of things you need to think about it. That is only the first lesson, so it should be an overview for everyone. We do a deep dives later somehow, but you have to focus on the data. So to have your data, whatever, as a service, as a product, so you need to have a greater in a great way, clean up the data and so on. You have your apps. You can do a low code, no code. You can do, of course, pro code development. It depends on yourself, or it depends on your team. That's what Diana was also mentioned. You have to go for GenAI perhaps or Agentic AI, but you need also the right persons to do this. If your people have no idea what is behind them, okay, perhaps you start better on one direction. Perhaps if you are all end users and you want to go further on a dialogue system, you're on a Copilot Studio, and then you're on a low code platform. You don't need to do the developer, the pro code platform there, but you have a lot of pieces, and the Lego method is how to build AI at scale. And what I like here to mention is a lot of things we can point out and deep dive on this one.
I agree. I also like to highlight that other places where organizations can get stuck, well,
Sure.
not get stuck, but not even start, is lack of data. That's super, super important. And so many organizations have created, do their nurture of their work, like, for example, not banks, but finance organizations, where usually you create silos because it's secure to, okay, you know this data because you need to know it, right? So that naturally ends up creating silos, and this ends up in the data design, right?
Yes.
And on finance organizations, usually this is quite the case.
Yes.
And you need to connect everything first, maybe through different, well, implement a data architecture, sharing, enable permissions, because otherwise, without data, you cannot have AI, or at least
Yeah.
not completely.
Yes. I agree on this one. And we move forward to the last part. I think most um, famous theme from Diana. She loves to talk about culture.
Yes. So, okay. So let's talk about the last pillar in the AI strategy. And this is where we would like to bring in a few thoughts and, just ideas on how AI will shift from the status quo, which is everyone thinking of it as a productivity tool, into really developing to be a leadership decision maker, either assistant or agent that will be able to take those decisions by itself, right? And we just picked and choose a few links and a few ideas that are already present out there. So just as an example, 2023 was the year when ChatGPT came out, right? And there was a person that thought, oh, ChatGPT would make a great CEO, and they founded a company together. And really, what the human founder did was only prompt ChatGPT and then follow its instructions, right? Because at the moment, AI doesn't have a legal entity, so you need a human to represent yourself in when starting a startup. But that company, which is called Aesthetic, still exists. They sell T-shirts. They're out there, right? So it's proof that even in the early days of this technology, this was already the way to go and the way people were thinking about AI. Then there's also Harvard Business Review released an article that said AI can mostly outperform human CEOs, right? There's an AI CEO website where you could replace your CEO now. You could calculate the ROI of having an AI CEO. So at the moment, it's all quite gimmicky, right? But the idea behind it is that AI is much more than just a productivity tool, right? That is the safe way to go, and that is the way in which, of course, we need to go as well. However, I want you and I encourage you to think that there is a whole big opportunity out there that looks at AI from a leadership and a decision-making perspective. And now circling back to what we said in the beginning, right, that all starts with business. I would like to just close this chapter and the AI strategy with three thoughts. And the first of it is, again, the encouragement is to really find a good business, a good problem to solve. And this problem comes from the business, right? So 70% of POCs fail at the moment just because the business challenge was just not good enough. So really find something that makes an impact either for you or for your team or for your organization and go for it. Don't focus on quick wins that have low impact or wins that are not replicable in the organization, and just think big, right? The second thought that I want to share is we really, as a society, we need to learn how to fail successfully. So at the moment, we're so focused on celebrating wins and stuff that we've done good, right? However, it's kind of like in research, 70% or 80% of what we do, one way or the other fails, right? Nobody talks about that. And I think that there's so much value in that because we can learn so much from each other's mistake and not repeat the same mistakes twice, right? So that would be the second encouragement. And then the third one is, and this is kind of like a personal reflection, right? So I mentioned AI is going into leadership, decision making, and then I always find myself asking, so what is then our unique value proposition as humans, right? Where do we then in the future differentiate ourselves from AI agents? And I think to me, that's to some extent this emotional identity that we have. And that's something that is profoundly human and less so agentic, right? So we really need to build on that. So we need to show empathy, we need to communicate with each other, we need to be more human and less robotic ourselves. And yeah, I think with that, Alex, handing over to you for the closing.
Thank you very much. So we are just on time, and we need to mention that Microsoft provided a lot of information here already to you, but there is also on LinkedIn Learning, there are a lot of learning paths for building AI literacy, and we see already 6 items updated March 2025. So you just go there. We provided the link already in the chat, and you can see the information there on more than 7 hours of free for you to learn how to build this kind of frameworks and so on. So this was the first one. That was the understanding. The second one will be in the next week. We will do this one for all professionals, including leaders and managers, and also talking about prompt engineering and co-pilots and strategies and so on. We will do this one on the same time. Um, on Monday with Hannah Schwab. He is team leader, lead data and AI at Tackle Group, and happy if you have time to join us. What we are doing then is we're talking for the first today on the first lesson about the overview and strategy and a lot of different very important things. But then from the second to the fifth, we are going to hit from the left to the right. Somehow, last but not least, we will talk on the last one about machine learning and so on. So we're doing the whole stuff of information that Microsoft provides to us here and doing also a lot of deep dives. And that's it for today. Thank you, Diana and Jose, for your time. Thank you very much for joining us, everyone, and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, guys.